make sure that you're availing yourself of those. We will get started even though we still have some folks coming in because, as you can see, we have a very busy evening ahead of us. So let's start the evening by standing and facing the flag, saying the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is fantastic. Thank you all for being here. This is an amazing turnout, and apparently we have quite a lot of people on Zoom as well, so that is good. Good evening. My name is Alison Benford. I'm the president of the South Dayton Club, and along with the Northwest Democratic Club and the Montgomery County Democratic Party, we welcome you to this Democratic Primary Candidate Forum. This is a huge group, and we're so happy that all of the candidates are actually with us this evening. Thank you so much to Mike Gross for allowing us to use this space. I don't think we could have squeezed you into the open library. I want to thank all of the candidates for agreeing to attend. Running for office is not an easy decision. The time, the effort, and the money required is enormous. You're also laying yourself open to criticism. Politics can be a cruel sport. These folks have taken the difficult decision to step into the ring, and I applaud them for that. If you look at the South Dayton Dems website, you'll see that our core belief is living our values. Those values are kindness, respect, and helping those less fortunate. We endeavour to live by those values, and I hope you join us in doing that today. You may hear answers tonight that do not align with your beliefs or thoughts on certain issues. Those answers may inform your decision in the voting booth. But I am asking you this evening to remain respectful to all responses. The candidates have not seen the questions, so they will be thinking on their feet. Please give them a moment every now and then to think. Lastly, I'd like to thank my steering committee and Tim, my partner in crime for the last 50 years, who always keep the club moving forward and on the right track, and for the hard work that they put into creating thoughtful and diverse questions. I have a piece of sad news tonight. I've just heard that one of our most supportive members and the former president of the South Dayton Club is in hospital in serious condition. Please take a moment to send your thoughts and prayers to our friend John Murphy and his family tonight. I do have a quick ask before I hand over the microphone. The South Dayton Democratic Club has been affiliated with the Westwood Right Project for a number of years. We've created gardens out of vacant lots and have rehabbed a house which is now ready to help a family become homeowners and start building generational wealth. The Kettering Foundation has a number of initiatives this year, one of which is focusing on voter registration and turnout in areas of Dayton. The Westwood neighborhood is central to one of those areas. We as a club are committed to joining Dee Wooding in this important task. If you would like to be part of this outreach, please leave your name and contact information on our website, southdaytondems.org. There is a contact tab that you can go on there and do that for us. If you forget that, go onto the Montgomery County website. There is a link to us. We do have an announcement, and Marty Gehres is going to talk to you just for a couple of minutes about the Dayton Earned Income Tax, which will be on the ballot in March.
Thank you very much. Come out here in the middle. So I'm here to talk to you guys about issue 6, which is a renewal of the City of Dayton's income tax levy. This was a renewal from 2016, where we increased the tax in the City of Dayton 0.25%. This will not increase anybody's taxes, so everybody should cheer for that. Yay, no increase. What it does tax is on earned income. So that does not apply to Social Security, disability benefits, IRA, 401ks, interest, and other retirement interests, and income. This is for people who live in the City of Dayton and work in the City of Dayton. So this would apply if you're commuting in from Kettering. I'm sorry, you don't have to pay the City of Dayton's income tax. That will be applied to some wonderful services here in the City of Dayton. It ensures that we have preschool promise here, housing improvements, police, fire, EMS services, paved roads, and other quality projects here in the City of Dayton. So once again, this is not an increase on everybody's taxes. We've already been paying this tax since 2016, and the city really needs it to be able to provide increased services for everybody in the community and make sure there's enough fire, police, EMS, and road services in the City of Dayton. So thank you. Please consider voting for issue 6. It's on March 19th is the election day. Early voting started today. So when you go in there, vote yes for issue 6. Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly go through the rules for this evening's forum. Unfortunately, we are down to one functioning microphone. So forgive us if we have to do a little finagling here. Each candidate initially will get up to 2 minutes to introduce themselves, say what inspired them to run and why they are the best candidate for the office. You don't have to take the full 2 minutes, by the way. Each candidate will then be asked 3 questions that are relevant to the office they wish to hold. Each answer will be no longer than 1.5 minutes, and the questions will be asked in rotation. So if, let's say, Jyl gets question 1, she answers it first, then Willis, then Jocelyn. Next time around, Willis gets to answer it first, then Jocelyn, then Jyl. So everybody gets a chance to be in the hot seat. If time permits, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. We'll have to see how time goes. This is not a debate, so candidates will not interrupt or challenge another candidate. They are here to express their position on issues. Timekeepers, and Tim is down there and Pam is down there with their red and yellow sheets. They will hold up a yellow sheet when you have 30 seconds left, and a red sheet will indicate your time is up. And if you disobey, Tim will be coming after you with a gun. So with that, I'm going to start off with Commissioner Judy Dodge. And if Judy, then when you have finished, you would pass the microphone down, and each person, you can stay where you are if you wish, or...
Okay, let me go up here because I have a better view of this wonderful, wonderful crowd. I'm Judy Dodge, Montgomery County Commissioner. I'm running for re-election. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. And I'm going to see, I want you to see, I want to raise your hand. How many remember Colonel White High School? See, we're all in the same path. I graduated from Colonel White High School. I'm not going to tell you the year. The horses would come up to the school and drink their water there. But anyway, no, and I'm a graduate of the Wright State University. Very, very proud of that. I've had several jobs over the years, several positions, and they've all been just different and exciting. For several years, I was assistant court administrator at Domestic Relations Court. You can imagine the fun it was there after their hearings. I had that, and then also I worked for the Attorney General, Lee Fisher, back in the 90s, and that was a great job. He is a great, great man. We miss him terribly. But he's up in Cleveland doing great. And then people came up to me and said, why don't you run for county recorder? And I said, okay, why not? So I ran for county recorder, and this is what I want to say, and this is how every single vote counts, and why you need to get out and vote. At that race in 1996, 207,000 votes were cast for that Montgomery County recorder. I lost by 402. Already my time's almost up. Anyway, so, and then I ran for county commissioner in 2006, and thank God I won. I did win for county recorder in 2000, just to let you know that. But anyway, I love what I do. My fellow commissioners are great. Debbie Lieberman, I don't know if Carolyn Rice is here, and all of our directors and our staff. You know, we've just done a great job. We do great, great things in Montgomery County. I want to keep it going, and I'd appreciate everybody's vote. Thank you.
You don't have to go up to the centre all the way. It's probably, because of time, if you would maybe just stand up where you are.
Good evening. Today we are experiencing the results of some elected officials who continue to put special interest groups ahead of the people that they were elected to serve. I am Yuossef Elzein, running for Montgomery County Commission so that the people will have a direct voice again. I'm not a politician. I'm a community servant. My priorities will include improving secure and affordable housing, retaining the growing diverse population inside our county, and continuing to promote equal and equitable access to our affordable health care and higher education. I pledge to work with law enforcement and the jail coalition to address the undesirable county prison conditions and restore humane living conditions to the prison population. I want to strengthen the stability of our community and give our citizens the opportunity to contribute to the continued success of our Montgomery County. I do not take the campaign for public office lightly. My life has been committed to community service. I continually serve in a number of diverse ways, including serving on the boards of the International Peace Museum and other organizations. I work as a civil engineer, and I'm grateful to my wife and 2 children for their support of me in all these endeavors. I proudly launched my campaign on Martin Luther King Day this year because I too believe we need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice, not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. Martin Luther King Jr.
She works. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Cox, and I'm running for U.S. Congress District 10. I'm a mom, I'm a scientist, I'm a teacher, former teacher, actually. I'm a scientist now. I work at Guided by Mushrooms. I am a farm scientist for Guided by Mushrooms. As you know, in agriculture, we do need ag scientists, and I'm proud to say that I'm an urban ag scientist now. She asked the question, what inspired me to run? I was inspired to run actually back in 2020. I ran for state rep, and I came really close. We all got hit by the Trump train that year, but you know, you don't quit. So I got gerrymandered out of a district, and I ran again in 2022. And in that race, I sent the message that I was still not putting up with their bullcrap. And here I am again. I was minding my own business this summer. I was going to run again in my state house district. And some people contacted me. And they recruited me to run for this district. They said, these district lines have a new makeup. This district is flippable, but we have to have the right message. This person has to be working class. They have to have a working class message. And we prefer teachers. You happen to be one. And I said, let me think about it. So I asked around family, friends, and other people that are up in this room now, do I want to do this? And they all, 100% of them said yes. You can't pass up this opportunity. If these people helped Greg Landsman flip his district, and they are sure that you are the recipe to flip this district blue, then you have to do it. So that is why I'm here. My platform can be found on voteamycox.com, but hopefully I'll be able to have some time to share that with you. My platform, is that my time?
No, well, actually, both.
Thank you for your help, David. That was sweet.
You start running your own timer when you've done this enough times. My name's David Esrati, and I am running for Congress again in a district that is still gerrymandered to be Republican. But I want to tell you something. Considering this party did absolutely nothing to help me last time, I outperformed Van Whaley in my district, and she had $9 million. If I had raised more than the $40,000 that I did, things would have been different. I own a propaganda film company for a business. I own an ad agency. I can build my own websites, I can do my own printing, and I can make my own video. I also am the only person who has gone to court with Mike Turner and won over a First Amendment case. There is nobody in Dayton Mike Turner is more irritated by than me. I can guarantee you I can get under his skin. I will get under his skin. And I will tell people why Mike Turner is unfit for office over and over and over. I don't need to win the Democrats. I need to win the independents and the Republicans. And the fact that I outperformed Nan in Greene County and I came close in Montgomery County, which is her home county, says I know a little bit about getting people to get out and talk and vote. This time, Mike Turner laid a big turd about 2 weeks ago when he told the president what he should declassify. That's not his job. He's overstepping his boundaries. I'm a veteran. I don't do that. I also don't support a president who takes top secret materials home and keeps them in his bathroom. I also don't believe that people who voted against the certification of the election of Joe Biden should be in the Congress. Thank you very much.
I'm Joseph Kuzniar, retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force. Worked on intercontinental ballistic missiles, space systems, intelligence. When I retired, Air Force Research Lab hired me. Worked everything from Star Wars to aging aircraft to electronic systems. Never ran for office before. What got me upset is what's happening at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is the largest employer in this area. Most of you have no idea what's going on there. But basically, things are degrading there. We have vacant buildings, vacant offices, gate closures. So that's the main reason I was running. Also worried about things like Social Security. Don't want people messing with it, especially when they use that dirty word, prioritize. So I think the average person that retires, they have little in savings, and the only safety net they have is Social Security. Veterans. Ohio has about 600,000 veterans. Probably don't know. Half of those are Korean War and Vietnam era veterans. And there's hardly any facilities or services for them. There's only 2 places that even have beds for them. That's down in Georgetown and up in Sandusky. Less than 1,000 beds. We're talking 300,000 retired veterans. Like I said, I've never run for office before, but I'm very familiar with the federal government. I've prepared budgets. I've run conferences that are with different institutions, and actually ended up on the White House Interagency Working Group and met President Clinton. Thank you.
Hello. Already? No. My name is Tony Pombo, and I'm running to be your congressman in Congress, U.S. Congress for Ohio District 10. I'm running because I feel the American dream is slipping away. Too many politicians are catering to the desires of the ultra-wealthy, the mega corporations, and the lobbyists. And this is rarely in the best interest of the American people. As the years have passed by, their policies have slowly eroded the American dream for most. And you know what? We've all noticed, the people have noticed, we all know that the average life of the American family in this country is not as secure as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. My job as your congressman will be to push policy, promote policy that restores the era of prosperity, well-being, and security that we all had when the American dream was accessible to everyone. Your job is to select the candidate that has the best chance to defeat Mike Turner. Mike Turner is smart. He will exploit every vulnerability of his opponent. I am the best choice because I have nothing for Mike Turner to exploit. You see, I have lived and worked in this district my entire adult life, alongside all of you. I'm a fresh and friendly politician with no controversies, no enemies, no hidden agendas, and no secrets. Furthermore, my stance on the issues, while faithful to the Democratic Party, are moderate enough to actually win over Republican voters. This is critical. Also, I'm young enough to relate to the young voters, yet old enough to understand the needs of the retirees and the baby boomers. For these reasons, I believe I am our best chance to defeat Mike Turner, and for that reason, I'm asking for your vote. Please vote for me. You can find more information about me on my website at votepombo.org. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Jyl Hall and I'm running as a Democrat for a state Senate seat. I'm very glad for the opportunity to be here and talk about what kind of senator that I would be and the issues that I care about. I'm also happy to have this chance to talk face-to-face with people, as there's been some inaccurate information that has been spread about me during the campaign, and I'm so glad to set the record straight. I'm a fighter on behalf of families in the Dayton region. I've been working in Kettering City Council, and I work on issues that make people's lives better. I care about the issues that families are talking about around the kitchen table: child care, education, health insurance, how to get food on the table, and how to get money in the bank. On the council, I successfully worked to lower energy bills. I improved child care options and improve access to food by opening up a grocery store in an underserved neighborhood. I'm the candidate who gets results for my constituents, and I'm the candidate who has the best chance to flip this seat blue in November. Thanks so much for your time.
Hi, Well, good evening. I just want to first thank Allison and the South Dayton Dems for hosting this candidates forum, and I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up to this important event. Once again, my name is Willis Blackshear Jr., State Representative of Ohio's 38th House District, and I am a candidate for State Senate in District 6. You know, for far too long, this district has been represented by out-of-touch extremists in the Senate. Those who put their personal interests ahead of the community's interests. And I believe that our district deserves better. I believe that our district deserves a senator who, one, knows the community as the only candidate that has lived in this community his entire life. I hear people say all the time that our best days are behind us, but I'm here to tell you that our best days are ahead of us. There is no reason why the Dayton region shouldn't be mentioned amongst the 3 Cs. Also, too, I'm a proven leader. Despite the partisan politics that is going on in the State House, I've been able to secure over $23 million for this community. I help projects such as the Ronald McDonald House, the Levitt Pavilion, the YWCA, and the Boys and Girls Club, just to name a few. I've also stood up to Republican extremism. I fought against their abortion ban and also fought against their attack on our democracy in August. And let's just tell it how it is. We need someone who can actually win. We need someone who has the political infrastructure, the community connections, and who can also raise the money. Republicans are going to spend $1 million to keep this seat. And we need someone who's going to be able to combat their attacks. We're only going to get one opportunity to flip this seat blue, and I believe that I am the right candidate to do that. The work that I've done thus far in the State House, I look to continue to do that work over in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here. Thank you to the South Dayton Democratic Club, Northwest Dems, Montgomery County Democratic Party. I am so grateful to be here. I am Jocelyn. I'm a mom. I'm a small business owner. I'm a board member on the Dayton Board of Education. I'm a board member of Planned Parenthood Southwest Ohio. And I am running for the Ohio 6th Senate District. And I'm running to continue the work that you all know that I've been doing for years. That you know me for, fighting for public education and fighting for women's rights. Before the seat got flipped to a Dem-favored district, our party chair called me and asked me if I was going to consider running for this race, because he knows the importance of sending a pro-choice woman to this seat to represent this district that has never had a pro-choice woman here before. I jumped in head first, and then when the district was changed to a Dem-favored district, a couple other folks jumped in. I'm so grateful for the opportunity for us to compare ourselves in front of you, to answer your questions so that you can find the candidate that best reflects your values. One of the values that I fight for the hardest is women's rights and the right to abortion. Not everybody here is unequivocally pro-choice, and I'm the only pro-choice woman in this race. I'll tell you, people say there's an argument that abortion doesn't matter anymore because we codified the right to abortion in the Constitution. Let me tell you, the saying that abortion isn't an issue anymore is what we heard 5, 10, 20 years ago when we still had Roe versus Wade. We don't have Roe anymore. And we also have a Republican legislature that has shown time and time again that they don't care about our Constitution. They don't care about a constitutional educational funding system. They don't care about constitutional districts. What makes you think that they will care about our constitutional right to bodily autonomy? I have been fighting for this in addition to public education for years. And I know this matters. I know this matters to all of you. It matters so much. So today is the year anniversary of when they filed issue 1 to be on the ballot in November. And it's about a year ago when I heard that Mohammed was trying to find somebody to run issue 1. And I called him and said I would do that. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Rose Lounsbury, and I am running to be a state rep in House District 36, which includes Kettering, Oakwood, Riverside, East Dayton, and parts of downtown Dayton. I am a former public school teacher, I'm a current small business owner, and I am a mom of teenage triplets who are here tonight. Thank you guys. I'm the daughter of a coal miner, the granddaughter of a coal miner from Southeast Ohio, and the daughter of 2 public school teachers. And when I went into public education, I remember my dad pulled me aside and he said, Rosie, the two people at the school that you need to become friends with are the custodians and the secretaries. He taught me the value of listening to people who don't seem at first glance to hold the most power in our society. As your state representative, I believe the most important thing I can do is listen to people. Like many of you, I was incensed this past August when our elected representatives held a special election at the cost of $18 million of our taxpayer dollars in an effort to silence us. Andrea White, the current Republican incumbent, supported that election, and my goal is to make sure that she can never again spend our money to take away our voting rights and our healthcare rights. My vision for the state of Ohio is to create a place that attracts and retains top graduates from our nation's best colleges and trade schools. In order to do that, I will fight to create a state with a top-ranked education system, an enviable healthcare system, a place that continues to uphold the rights of women and seek justice for those who've been marginalized. That's the kind of Ohio that I want to live in. It's the kind of Ohio I want my kids and all of our kids to live in as well. And I know that together we can create that. I would appreciate your vote in this primary. Again, my name is Rose Lounsbury. I look forward to representing you in Ohio's 36th district. Thank you.
Hi, I'm also running for the 36th district, state house rep. Just a quick survey. How many people here have already know me or have heard my stump speech before? Chuck Horn. Okay, how many people here think they may have heard the name Chuck Horn somewhere before? Well, okay, a little about myself. I grew up in Kettering, UC Bearcat undergrad law school, got out, public defender, legal aid society, did a little bit of work. Before I went to LexisNexis, just about 30 years there. Did some corporate work, sales, a little bit of everything, managed people. Then I had about 6 years of corporate legal experience with some complex litigation. That's my business background. I'm retired now. Why am I doing it? My values are health, safety, and personal responsibility. Why am I doing it? I'm ticked off as you are about all the things that have been going on, especially the corruption in the State House, women's rights, the fact that the state of Ohio has been going downhill my entire life. It's like when I got out of high school, we were peaking in every measurable, it's a blue state, red state thing. Things are getting worse. Health, education, life expectancy, per capita income. The amount of money that goes out of Ohio in taxes versus goes to other states. Well, I ran once before in Butler County. Last time around, I was endorsed by the Teamsters, the nurses, the teachers, and by Sherrod Brown. I hope you'll consider me in March. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure I'm 5'3", so I'm going to move around the table. I'm Desiree Tims. I am running for the State House for House District 38. My story, I'm born and raised in West Dayton. I often refer to myself as a daughter of Dayton because this community has poured so much into me. I graduated from Dunbar High School and later attended college at Xavier University, where I met a man named Senator Barack Obama, who was running for president. I did not know about Barack Obama, but I came to a house party here in Dayton off Salem Avenue, and I saw how excited so many women were about Barack Obama, and that was so infectious that I knocked doors for him, and that opportunity led me to work in the White House for President Obama. I left the White House to go work for our Senator Sherrod Brown, who's also on the ballot this year, and during my time, I fought for Ohioans every step of the way, whether it's passage of the Farm Bill to ensure that LIHEAP, which extends tax credits so that lower income people can have heat in the winter and food on their table. I fought to make sure that environmental justice was a real thing because as someone who lives and grew up on the west side of town, I understand what it's like to smell the dump at the wee hours of the night. When I was a student at Dunbar, we had to choose between opening the window or turning the fan on, knowing either way would be, a false choice. I'm running for the State House because after I ran for Congress here in 2020, kudos to you guys, take my Turner down. I took a job as president President and CEO of Innovation Ohio. In that role, I've been fighting for our rights at the State House and around the state, up and down 71 and 75. I served as a spokeswoman for the Issue 1 campaign to take down everyone who told us no when it came to abortion rights. And anyone who tells our community no, I will fight for you and I will fight for them. I'm on Fox News as the political commentator for Democrats, so I fight crazy every day. I hope that you'll vote for me if you are in my district. I'll be on the ballot and I would love to have your support. TimsForOhio.com. Desiree Tims, thanks so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derrick Foward. I am running for the 38th House District of Ohio. I'm a lifelong Daytonian. Growing up in Jefferson Township, spending a considerable amount of time in Trotwood, raised my family in Dayton. I'm a proud graduate of Central State University with an undergraduate degree in management and marketing. I received my master's and doctorate degrees from International Apostolic University, where I received in administration and organization. I'm retired from Speedway after a 28-year career with Speedway. Very successful business person. I was able to give men and women meaningful job opportunities, which contributed greatly to the local economy. The citizens of the 38th House District of Ohio should vote for me because I've been doing the work inside this community for 3 decades. From a professional civil rights human rights standpoint, I'm a man of action, and I've delivered positive results for my constituents in areas of voting rights, criminal justice reform, women's rights, healthcare reform, union rights, education reform, youth development, economic sustainability. I lobby members of Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act and also the Affordable Care Act legislation. I stood with my brothers and sisters in labor to defeat Senate Bill 5. I work collaboratively with over 20 law enforcement agencies throughout Montgomery County to implement an 8-point strategy on criminal justice reform and police accountability after the death of George Floyd. Organized a group of healthcare professionals to include the Montgomery County Health Commission to educate the community on the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, which ultimately saved lives inside of our county. I work with local business to make capital improvements and enhance customer service experience and to implement bias-free training for employees. I have financially supported youth programs, provided mentorship, training, and leadership development opportunities. As evidence, I am committed to serving the citizens of the 38th House District of Ohio is undeniable and unmatched. And it's this level of commitment that will continue when I am elected on March 19, 2024. But know this, I've been doing the work inside this community for over 3 decades, and I will continue to do this work on behalf of all of you and everyone who resides in the 38th House District of Ohio. Thank you very much.
All right, very good. Thank you, everyone. We're going to start now the portion where we're going to ask specific questions. So the first question that I will be asking will actually start off with Judy, and she will answer that question, and then Yuossef, we will pass it to you. I can come to you with the microphone.
Whenever everybody wants.
Time.
Stay there.
What, do you want me to stay here?
Yeah, we need you for time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I thought I'd be in the center.
Yeah, you were good. Okay, this is the question for you both. What specific initiatives do you plan to implement to promote economic growth and job creation in areas that need it the most in Montgomery County?
Allison?
Yes.
A minute and a half?
Minute and a half, yes.
A minute and a half, okay, same thing, okay, good. We already are committed to our more vulnerable districts here in Montgomery County. And you know, the ARPA money is gone. ARPA money is gone. And we were committed to help our region with a lot of that money. We gave money to, well, we didn't give it, but we granted money to the Homeful. You've heard of Homeful? is over there on Gettysburg. Oh my gosh, that is becoming like a city in itself, and we're committed because the citizens in that area, the vulnerable citizens in that area, they need a grocery store. They have no place to go. They need a pharmacist. They need a social worker. So that's going to be done very soon. If you go on Gettysburg, it's going to go very, very well. So we're committed to help on that, as well as the homeless shelter. We put money into that because, as you know, homelessness is up and up and up and up, and that is a real concern of ours. And so we're helping on that. We fixed up the shelter, gave extra beds, bedding, everything else. So that's a real priority for us, as well as food. Food insecurity is horrible here in Montgomery County, no question about it. So we've been very active with Miami Valley Meals. I'm sure you've heard of that, as well as the food bank. We're very committed to that. So as well as helping get these kids jobs and help them get trained for these positions that are coming in. Goodbye. I can go on.
I know. It's a cruel,
Is Mr. Esrati timing
well, yes, we don't need to. We do have times up there.
because it is distracting to have that go off. Very
Yes, could we turn that? Cut it out. Everybody's being very good at watching the times.
Well, I hope you don't mind me staying seated. For the last 16 years, we saw some of our best and brightest leave our area in search of more supportive communities. I believe that enhancing our focus on current residents who have already invested their time, money, and energy to stay in our county will spark pride in our communities and encourage others to join. Montgomery County already holds many of the tools and resources necessary to retain the livable communities our emerging generation is seeking. As Commissioner, I will partner with the businesses, schools, and community organizations alike to provide more effective job training programs and education opportunities to prepare our citizens to the 21st century careers. Prioritize creating more technical training and education programs that improve skills of higher paying jobs at all ages level, including high school. Focus on increasing apprenticeship with our fire, law enforcement, and trade unions, and encourage school districts in our county to jointly create programs that will have proven to be successful. Together, we can encourage partnership between our cities, communities, businesses, and our county to support youth activities and mentoring programs, and capitalize on the location of one of the largest employers in the state, Wright Pat Air Force Base. Thank you. I thought you were stopping the beeping.
Yeah.
No, can you reset the timer?
Yeah, no, we're good. All right, this question is for our 4 congressional candidates. And Amy, you'll be first to answer. How would you prioritize military aid spending for Ukraine and Israel and humanitarian aid for Gaza? Do you believe that military aid to Netanyahu should be contingent on a ceasefire? This was a question that came in from one of our members.
Okay.
Okay, priority for aid in Europe is a priority. Clearly, Russia has decided to invade a sovereign nation. It's getting really scary over there, and Russia won't stop with Ukraine. It is important that we do fund that area, for sure. Same with Israel. We have to make sure that we're helping Israel, but at the same time, we cannot condone what is going on in Palestine. It's awful, it's atrocious. I would love to see a ceasefire. As far as contingency, it has to come before Congress. Congress has to vote on that. They have to be ready. And that's all as far as any information that I have on that. I am constantly learning more on that topic, as a lot of you in this room are. And I will be better prepared for those questions at a later time when I have more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a very complicated issue, and part of the problem is our country has been selling weapons across the globe for decades, and our congressman, Mike Turner, is funded by the billionaires who give him more and more money to continue selling weapons. We shouldn't sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. We did. That was started under Trump. If you know the truth about 9/11, they weren't Iraqis, they weren't Afghanistan. Anybody from Afghanistan? Yeah. There wasn't anybody from Afghanistan. There wasn't. I shut the ringer off. Anyways, but we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. At some point, we cannot keep increasing our military budget because, frankly, until you have the same health care that your congressman has, that it's universal for everybody, we have no national security. Any one of you can end up bankrupt with cancer. Cancer does not cause bankruptcy normally. It doesn't do it in other countries. It does it here. We have to stop the wild spending. As to where the money comes from for Iraq, for Ukraine, and for Israel, it comes out of our defense budget. They're going to have to slim down their budgets on F-35s. As to stopping Israel and a ceasefire would be great when Hamas releases the hostages and Hamas stops shooting rockets. I see people nodding their heads. There are a lot more people in Ukraine, women and children dying, and I don't see anybody near as upset as they are about what's going on in Gaza. You have to wake up. We can't keep supplying weapons to the world.
There's an old saying, if you don't understand history, you're bound to repeat it. Back in 1938, Prime Minister of England, Neville Chamberlain, came back to England, had a treaty signed by Adolf Hitler, said, give us the Saarland, and I won't go any further. And then World War II insisted, you can't depend on that. We've got to support the Ukraine against Putin. And Putin's already threatened to attack the rest of NATO, even come up with threats like, geez, we might want Alaska back. Not kidding about that. So we have to do the support for the Ukraine. I think the budget for our military is underfunded for what we have to do. We have to increase that. I think we have to do Palestinian aid. But as far as the Prime Minister of Israel, I think he's out of control. He tells the people in the Strip, this is a safe zone, and then he sends in aircraft to start shooting. Too many civilians are hurt by that. I think we have to support the Strip. I think we have to support the Ukraine, and that's about it.
What Russia did to Ukraine is an atrocity. I can't believe, with all the anti-bullying messages we put out in the schools, that we watch Russia bully Ukraine and beat them up, and we stand by as the greatest country on earth and do nothing. This pisses me off. It should piss you off, too. Israel got attacked by Hamas. Tragic. Horrible. Israel's response has almost been genocide. If you watched the Republican primary a couple months ago, when the Republican presidential candidates talked about what they want to do, how they support Israel, they spoke of nothing less than wiping out Palestine. What? That is not what we as a country should be thinking about. We need to support Ukraine. That war should have ended 18 months ago. This is ridiculous. The quantity of death is unbelievable. David mentioned it. Israel, a little more complex. Israel isn't necessarily squeaky clean in what's going on over there. We need to support Israel, though, because it sends a message. We need to support Ukraine because it sends a message. You know China is watching how we treat our allies. If we don't defend the Ukraine, if we don't defend Israel, what do you think they're going to do with Taiwan? We're not going to defend Taiwan, right? They're going to assume that. We have to support our allies overseas. And that's going to take money. We have to spend it. We need to be smart about it, but we have to spend it. Thank you.
Okay, this next question is for our State Senate District 6 candidates. Education is crucial to the success of our children and our community. How do you plan to support our public schools and ensure that all students excuse me, receive a quality education? Please address the change in requirements for vouchers and homeschooling in your answer.
Education is one of the biggest concerns in the state legislature, and it's going to be one of the biggest economic drivers of our state because it's going to reflect who wants to live here, who wants to bring their children here, and how well their children are going to be prepared for the future. And it's a huge economic boost if we have good education. So, for example, every $1 that's invested into public education yields a $13 return to our economy. Dayton has some of the most failing schools in the country, and unfortunately, we really need to work at the state legislature to address the funding disparities that in part allow this to happen. There is unequal funding. If people are getting a certain amount of money for private schools, then every single public school student in the state should also be getting an equal amount of money. We can't do it on property taxes alone. The state has to pony up. They have to consider the kids' future, and we have to start early in K through 12 education. I think our ranking as 50th in the nation in children's services really reflects a true failure on the part of the state legislature to care for our kids and to really consider where we're going to go in the future. So my main priority on education is going to be to advocate for equal funding.
Well, that's a good question. We live in a state that has been deemed unconstitutional in terms of our school funding model since 1997. Now, last General Assembly, we voted in our budget to have a temporary fix, but we need a long-term fix to fix our schools. You know, I live by the cradle to career model where we need to make sure that we are equipping our kids for the future. We need to make sure that we have a model here that works for our kids, where all of our schools have the resources to help our kids succeed. Also, we have to talk about teachers' pay. Our teachers are underpaid, and then we have a shortage of teachers as well because teachers aren't able to pay their bills, so they have to get 2 or 3 jobs just to survive. Ohio has a lot of work that needs to be done. Republicans in the legislature have been defunding our public schools. They have been giving public dollars to private schools and to charter schools, and we need to keep those dollars here in our public schools. When I think about Montgomery County and the schools that we have Wright State, Central State, Wilberforce, Sinclair, University of Dayton, and I think about the talent that we have here, we have to make sure that we are keeping this talent here for the jobs of tomorrow. So it all starts with funding our K through 12 schools, just to make sure that our kids are equipped, whether they want to go straight to the workforce or whether they want to go to college.
So I've been on the Dayton School Board since I was elected in 2017, and I ran as a parent of 4 kids who went to Dayton Public Schools because I care so deeply about public education. I didn't do this to start a political career. I care about my community. Let's talk about vouchers. Let's talk about homeschooling. Let's talk about the promise that we make to every single child in the state that they deserve a high quality public education. Some parents might choose to send their children to a private school, that's great. What we need to talk about is the way that we fund public education, how much we fund public education, the billions of public tax dollars that are being sent to non-public, unregulated entities that are not accountable to the same testing metrics, that are not held to the same accounting standards. They do not have to go through the same auditing process every single year that we have to. They don't even have to release their graduation numbers. This is a problem. We are actually 29th in this country for public education. We used to be 5th. I care so deeply about making sure that every single child has access to a high quality education. I have been fighting against vouchers since I started this work. I testify in the State House against vouchers and for public education. I advocate for public education in Washington, D.C., and even homeschooled kids. I'm going to address that too. They also have a right to a high quality education. We need to make sure that there are standards that they meet, and so that they are also prepared to graduate and go to the workforce. I'm grateful for everybody who believes just as deeply in public education as I do, and I know that you stand with me in supporting bills like House Bill 411, which will raise our teacher-based salary to $50,000 a year. I could talk for hours about this, but thank you so much. Thank you.
I started teaching on £500 a year. Those were the good old days, right? All right, this question will be for all of those folks who are running for House districts, and that is 36 and 38. How do you plan to address the issues of reproductive health care and maternal health care disparities, particularly for marginalized communities?
Well, I think this is an issue that all of us in this room have seen is very important in this past year. One of the reasons that I got into politics was because of the fall of Roe v. Wade, and it made it very real to me that the right to reproductive care is not an inherent right. It can be taken away. And so one of the things that I think we need to do is we need to make sure that at the State House we are listening to the voice of the people. Hours after we passed issue 1 in November, the extremist Republicans in our legislature got to work trying to dismantle it, trying to strip power from our judicial branch so that it could not be enforced. So we need to make sure that we are upholding the rights of the people and the will of the people by making sure that reproductive rights is always at the forefront of people's minds. And I realize that as a white woman, I am very blessed because many women who do not look like me have a much more difficult time accessing care. And that is something that we need to address at many levels. That's not just a healthcare issue, because when we see disparities like that, we realize we're dealing with a lot of different things: systemic poverty, systemic racism, lack of access to clean water and clean air. There are all sorts of issues that go into those types of disparities that we see. So I think that any issue when we're talking about these types of disparities in maternal health and reproductive rights, we need to not just look at it through a healthcare lens, but through all the things that contribute to it.
I'd just like to answer that last question. Let's get rid of the damn vouchers. I'm for separation of church and state. As far as reproductive rights go, I agree with everybody else. I'm horrified by what's going on all over this country. I worked hard on issue 1 this summer. I got 65 signatures, filled out the whole thing. Everything Rose said is absolutely correct. I can't add anything to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that question. When I was in law school, I had no idea that we would be overturning case law that I just very recently learned. While I was in law school, I also worked for League of Conservation Voters, where I served as judiciary director, mostly advocating and working on Capitol Hill against Trump's judicial nominees because we knew how toxic they were for democracy. Here we are, years later, and we're fighting to have access to basic rights. The fights that my grandparents and my aunts fought 50 years ago. We're having those same fights again today. I am not yet 40. I can't tell you how many OBGYNs I have had because I've been to the doctor's office and I was not believed. As a black woman, when we talk about these issues, it is women who look like me, who are dying in childbirth, who are dying on the table, and who are not believed when we talk about our pain, our issues, or how we need help. The way we address this is through equity. We need to make sure policies and laws coming out of the State House address the disparities that directly impact poor black women in the state of Ohio. Prescription birth control, over-the-counter birth control, things that the Biden administration is working towards. We have to make sure that the State House doesn't block legislation and opportunities for poor people to access contraception. It is not just about birth control, it is about bodily autonomy. And I think we have to do more to stand up to make sure nobody can be in a doctor's office and be fearful of not having the right to address and access the health care that they need. Thank you.
As it relates to this particular topic, I can tell you that for the past 30 years, sorry for my voice, for the past 30 years, I've been actually dealing with racism. I've been dealing with individuals, dealing with healthcare, and when we talk about this particular issue, dealing with, sorry about that.
Pause this time.
All right. Okay. Repeat your question.
How do you plan to address the issues of reproductive health care and maternal health care disparities, particularly for marginalized communities?
I can tell you that with me in my civil and human rights work, that when I take a look,
Would you like us to come back to you?
these are issues that, when I think about my 3L strategy of success for the seat. Number one thing is to be able to listen to the constituents of the 30th House District of Ohio to understand what the needs and what the needs are as relates to the disparities in healthcare. Our children are our babies. And with our children being our babies, we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can at the Ohio State House to protect our children. I can tell you that there's been disparities in healthcare for many years. African Americans have been, individuals have been suffering with this, I'm sorry about this, but suffering with this disparities for a very long time. And what I'm going to do when I get there, I want to make certain that we put laws on the books that's going to eradicate what's going on with these particular disparities. That's what I know how to do from a civil and human rights standpoint. That's what I'll continue to do.
Over for question 2 for each section to one of our members, Pombo.
I don't want Allison to have laryngitis. This question is for our county committee, and we'll start with Yuossef this time. The number of unhoused...
Right up to your mouth.
You
have to hold it up to your mouth.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Helps.
Yuossef, let's start over. The number of unhoused students at Dayton Public Schools has recently doubled. How do you plan to address issues of affordable housing, housing insecurity, and evictions in Montgomery County?
Thank you for the question, but I'd like to address something, even though it takes away from my time. The narrative that we hear from our elected officials and to be elected official is not accurate. The death toll in Gaza up to date is 30,000 civilians, 30,000 in 110 days or so. In Ukraine, a little bit less than 10,000 people. So that's not equivalent. To say the least, what about affordable housing? To be clear, affordable housing is where a member of our community pays no more than 30% of their income, including utilities. That's per our federal government. We don't want people in Montgomery County to have to choose between food, medicine, or rent. In changing housing markets, the challenges of affordability starts with the property taxes that keeps coming up. And that's where it becomes hard to afford buying a house. I've got the solution for our affordable housing. And the only people that are suffering are our children. As commissioner, I will work to reduce the boarded up houses to give Montgomery County residents an opportunity to become homeowners. Recycle abandoned houses. We give millions of dollars in grants and tax credits to developers that want to build boxes. Let us spend that money to rebuild our houses, to make it affordable to our residents. Expand programs such as tax abatement, low interest rates.
Okay, so affordable housing, basically with children. You know, the point in time count that the county does every year that shows the homeless people, we have not gotten the final numbers yet, but it is going to far exceed over the past several years, no question about it. You know, when the pandemic hit, we were able to receive CARES money. And what we did with that money, about 90% of it, we put out to families to pay their rent because they were losing their jobs. And, you know, we saw a huge increase in the homeless. So this is one of the concerns that we have, and I agree with what you said, and that is the cost of having an apartment or renting a house is astronomical. We know that, and we have tried everything in our power to try to get reasonable economic housing, and we are working with our local builders, you know, desperately trying to find low-income housing for them. I'm on the land bank, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with that money. Whoa. This goes fast, doesn't it, when you're talking? Anyway, trust me, we are working very hard. You have to understand, here's the state of Ohio. Counties are simply an administrative arm of states, okay? And they give us a lot of money, and they do very, very little with human services. Trust me. So this is a real concern of Montgomery County, and we are fighting every single day to try to get the state to understand we need some extra money here in Montgomery County. So thank you. All right.
Okay. This question is for our congressional candidate. Immigration is a pressing and contentious issue in Congress at this time. What is your approach to immigration reform? What steps are needed to control this problem? We'll start with David.
My voice sounded like Derrick's about 3 days ago. So, immigration's a very tough issue. It's underfunded. It has been underfunded, and it is a Republican talking point where they really don't want to solve the problem. They want to polarize this country. I'm going to tell you something that comes back to healthcare. If we had healthcare in this country for everybody, including addiction care, we wouldn't be having drugs coming across the border. The cartels would not have a ton of our money to ruin their countries. It's a vicious cycle. We've propped up banana republics for decades. We've interfered in other governments. They're not democracies. And now we're paying the price. Let's solve healthcare first in this country, because once everybody's healthy in this country, the drug problem will reduce considerably. The money going to the cartels will slow down. Let's face it, across the world. There are a lot of people, like 5 billion of them, that make less than $2 a day. They all want to come here. We can't let everybody here, but we can do a better job of how we manage it. And locking people up is not the answer. And we have to solve the healthcare problem in this country first and foremost if we want to stop the drug cartels from sending people here. Thank you.
Well, I think we still have the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. It says something about send us you're tired, you're poor. You have to remember, unless you're talking about Eskimos or Native Americans, we're all descended from immigrants. We have to support those immigrants. Some of them come from Venezuela, a severe dictatorship. They walk all the way from there through the Panama Canal, through Central America, Mexico, to try and get a better life. We got to give it to them. The only thing that I suggest, other than trying to give all those people a fair break, some kind of a job here in the United States, is we do have to vet some of them. We don't want to get terrorists, no murderers, those kind of folks in. But otherwise, let's work to help those immigrants that desire to have a future here in the United States, have a future here in the United States. Thank you.
Immigration, complicated, yes? Maybe. The problem that Americans have with immigration is not immigration. It's that there's people that come here that we don't want here. They're criminals or they're non-contributors to society. They come and they just sit around and don't help. And when you don't do anything, how do you survive? You crime, okay? So, we should eliminate illegal immigration. How do we do this? Well, one idea that I had was, what if we gave out an immigration ID card when you enter the border? Everybody gets one. You're coming here to work, you're not a tourist, you're gonna work here, here's your card. It's got a taxpayer ID, you got a photo of you on it, we got your fingerprints. Come on in, get a job, contribute. 2-3 months go by, and the IRS has not reported any income tax paid on that taxpayer ID. Let's track that person down and find out why aren't they contributing. They immigrated here to get a job, right? To have a better life. Why aren't they paying taxes? What's going on? The benefit of this ID card is that they can get a driver's license, they can get insurance because they're going to drive, and they're going to get in accidents, and they're never insured. I know people that have had this problem. Companies who want to hire immigrants, it's easy now. They're legal employees. So we have this benefit. Now they're paying taxes. If these people commit crimes, we can track them down. We've got their fingerprints, we've got their photo, and we can interview them, and maybe we send them back home. Just an idea. Thank you.
Okay, immigration reform. So there was an immigration bill that was okayed by the Senate, and then it got to the House, and then they played, ping pong with it. I did look a little bit into that. I listened to some folks talk about that immigration bill. It looked good with me not reading it. So if I was in the House of Reps, I would have been a vote to vote for it and to do something with it, which had some funding behind it. We are not going to ever solve the immigration issue because of climate change. We are always going to have people moving around the planet. With Europe in upheavals because of dictators, we're always going to have people trying to come here as the last best option. What we have to do is look at what other countries do who are successful with immigration, try to model that, hire the people that we need to make it happen, and fully fund it. There's no reason why we should shut the door on people that we can use in this country. If none of you have been paying attention, this science teacher is, we don't have enough babies in this country. That's one of the reasons we have these laws in the State House trying to tell women that they must be handmaids. And if If you didn't know, we have 64,000 handmaids in this country now. These are live births born out of rape babies. These women could not have abortions if they wanted them. Okay? So, immigration isn't going anywhere. We don't have enough children here. We have to fund it. We have to do it correctly. We have to look at the experts that know how to do this. And we have to have enough people in the House to pass it. Thank you.
Okay, the next set of questions are for our Senate 6 candidates. The first person that will answer this time will be Willis. Despite the overwhelming passage of Issue 1, enshrining certain reproductive rights into the Ohio Constitution, politicians are still trying to overrule that citizen-led initiative. Recent legislation and executive actions are also removing or weakening rights to gender-affirming care for youth and adults. Explain your position on healthcare decisions related to abortion and gender-affirming care.
Thank you. So, for one, I am proud to be pro-choice. I don't believe that it is politicians' right or decision to make for a woman. I fought against Republican extremism to try to protect abortion in our state. In terms of gender-affirming care, there actually was a bill that I voted against because the facts are the facts. This only affects about 3 to maybe 5 athletes in this area. Ohio has better things we need to be focusing on besides these polarized topics. We need to work on our economic and workforce development in this state, bringing more jobs here. We need to fix our education. And here's the thing, abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare, and we need to make sure that every woman, and these are not easy decisions. These are tough decisions that women have to make. And also, too, these are life-changing decisions because sometimes a woman is forced to get an abortion. These are not easy decisions. But I believe that the legislature needs to focus on other issues. We need to stay out of the doctor's office, we need to stay out of these hospitals, and we need to focus on the issues that matter to everyday Ohioans.
Yes, we passed issue 1 in November. Can we have a round of applause for that? Real quick, if you knocked on a door, if you signed a petition, if you passed out a petition to pass issue 1 last year, raise your hand. Heck yes. Thank you to everybody. If this is an issue that we all care about, that we make part of our daily conversation. I don't know about you. How many of you guys talk about issue 1 around your kitchen table? Raise your hand. That matters. I am a woman, I am a mother. I care very deeply that the bigger issue, the right to bodily autonomy, matters. And the politicians in the State House, extremists in the State House, should not take away our right to bodily autonomy, whether it's the right to abortion, whether it's trans rights. I'm gonna get really personal for just a sec. I'm a mom of a trans kid. Okay? Watching the extremists in the State House override the veto of House Bill 68 was the same thing that they're going to do to our right to abortion, our right to bodily autonomy. We deserve the right to make our own decisions about our bodies, whether it's about abortion, whether it's about trans medical care. I stand with every single person that supports the right to abortion. I will never back down. You will never question where I am with abortion. I will never seek out and receive the endorsement from an organization like Democrats for Life.
I'm really glad that we're talking about this. My position on this has been mischaracterized, but it's very simple. I'm going to uphold the Constitution of Ohio. I do have, voters voted overwhelmingly twice last year to pass issue 1. And while I do have a faith that brings about convictions for me on choosing abortion, I am going to take a vow to support the Constitution. I am not going to vote against the court's ability to interpret this law. And I have a track record of that, because when issue 2 was passed, a bunch of cities in the county tried to stop it and declared emergency moratoriums on issue 2. And I was the only person in the county that voted against that. And it's the job of a state senator to respect the will of the people.
Okay, the next question is for our House District 36, is 38 candidates, and we will start with Chuck this time. What strategies do you think will promote adequate funding for public schools in your district? And in what ways do you plan to promote vocational training and alternative education pathways for students who may not pursue a traditional four-year degree?
First, we get rid of the vouchers. And really, when you look at what's happening with the tax system in Ohio, it is a complete mess. They talk about the property tax. It's a home tax. Basically, it's another, what they're doing, getting rid of the income tax is just another way of, basically squeezing the middle class into the lower class. Tax reform is probably the biggest issue facing the legislature right now. And I would definitely, change the way our public schools are funded, something that would pass constitutional muster. The thing's been hanging around for 25 years without anything being done about it. As far as vocational schools and alternative pathways, I certainly support that. I encourage my son to go through trade school and get into that kind of work, and fully support it. It's another way of supporting unions in this state. And having, you look at the interactions they have with people and getting them into good paying jobs, all for it. Thank you very much.
We're all in the same question.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I just didn't want to step on your toes.
Oh, no,
Okay, cool.
I thought we were going this direction.
Following my paperwork. So when we talk about school funding, it's very personal to me because I used to tell the story on the stump, and I still tell it today. When I was a freshman at Dunbar High School, I was in my American history class, and I remember my teacher tapping me on the shoulder saying, "My daughter has the same textbook as you." And I thought, oh, okay, who cares? And then he said, "She's in the 4th grade in Kettering." I was one of the top, I was top of my class, not the top, but up there, when I graduated from high school. But to me, when I got to college, I was far, far behind, and I thought, what did that mean if I'm in high school and I have the same textbook as a 4th grader on the other side of town? When we talk about the inadequate school funding structure in Ohio, that's the story. That's the story. We're talking about kids who are punished because of the school they go to and the zip code that school is in. My grandfather was a sharecropper in the Deep South, migrated to Ohio to get a job in the steel mills and factories. He didn't have a high school or college education, but he was able to get that job, buy a home, and provide a living for us. We have to make sure, one, that we fund our schools so that no other child has the story that I had. 2, we have to make sure that people like my pawpaw have an opportunity to get a good job, buy a home, and provide for their family despite the inopportunities to finish school. And I'm committed to doing that in the State House. Thank you.
Now let's try this again. School funding has always been an issue in the state legislature. We need somebody that's going to go to the State House and that's going to be able to work both sides of the aisle to ensure that we do everything we can possible for our children in terms of education. Education opens doors to unlimited possibilities. My mother grew up down in Anderson, Alabama. My father grew up in the hills of Kentucky. So my father grew up in the hills of Kentucky. My father And it was very difficult for my father to be able to get education and his brothers. So they migrated to Dayton, Ohio. They migrated to Ohio because they wanted to make certain they had an opportunity to get all their kids through college. And we need to make certain that we do everything possible in our power to ensure that education is at the forefront. All my siblings graduated from college. My father on his deathbed 2 weeks before my father passed away. My father witnessed his last child graduate from college. He put 6 of them through college. But he wanted to make certain that he did everything in his power to understand the pricelessness of education. If we don't do what we can to fix the funding in Ohio, we are failing our children, period. And we need to make certain that we do everything. Thank you, thank you.
I actually went to Teachers College in Michigan, and so I did my student teaching up in Kalamazoo, Michigan. When I moved to Ohio in 2004 and I got a job at Northmont Schools here in Dayton, I was shocked when my fellow teachers told me, you know, Ohio school funding has been declared unconstitutional. To me, that felt like a really urgent problem that we needed to solve. 20 years later, it remains exactly the same. When we fund schools based on property taxes, we create inherently unequal schools. Even a third grader can understand that. One of the things that I will push for is that we stop funding schools based on the amount of money that the parents of those children have. I don't see how we can't create inequality by doing that, which is exactly what we've created, which is exactly what Desiree was talking about. Another issue is we need to stop the bleeding with this voucher system that is allowing parents of means to send their children to parochial schools for free. We are spending more state dollars to send kids to Catholic school than to our public schools. That is true. That is a bleeding of our public dollars that needs to stop. And on vocational education, my father taught in career tech centers his entire career. He taught woodworking, auto mechanics, and power technology. I saw in his classroom students who did not feel successful anywhere else in school feel successful. It is very important that we recognize not every kid wants to do algebra or write thesis papers. Some of them want to work on engines and some of them want to build bookshelves, and that is a skill and that is an intelligence, and we need to honor it by honoring our vocational and technical education. Thank you.
Our next question is for the county commissioners, and we'll start with Judy, followed by Yuossef. And the question is, what is your stance on environmental protection and sustainability efforts in Montgomery County?
Well, I'm proud to say that the commissioners are very involved in NACO, National Association of County Officials, as well as the county, state, CCAO, County Commissioners Association of Ohio. And one of the things that when Commissioner Lieberman and I were at a conference in Washington, D.C. at NACO, they had a big presentation on sustainability. And this was back in, I think Debbie left on me here, but this was back in like 2009, 2010. And, you know, we said we don't have anything like that in Montgomery County. So, my gosh, we got together and we formed our own Montgomery County sustainability effort. And we talked to businesses, we talked to schools and everything, how to reduce electric charges, how to help with solar panels, all sorts of stuff, and become environmentally friendly. So we're very, very committed to that with the young people and everybody here in Montgomery County. So we're very proud of that. So I'm going to cut on time because we're getting late. Thank you.
Environmental sustainability is very important to me as a civil engineer. Water resources is one of the most important and sacred resources, natural resources that any community can struggle for. We need to protect our water resources as much as we do for energy, solar panels, wind energy is not the solution. One time we give them the break to get the solar panels. The next thing we know, that our utility companies still raises the charges for delivery methods. I don't believe anybody that has solar energy or wind energy or anything like that is saving money because our utility company year after year raises our delivery method because they are still in control of all that. We are doing good when it comes to all these efforts, thanks to the environmental specialists and coordinators at the county and the city of Dayton, but we need to spread that across the entire county. The county is not only made out of Dayton. You go out just a few miles to the east, a few miles to the west, our cities are nowhere to be found when it comes to environmental. Landfills, we need to take care better of landfills. So we need to work hard on our surrounding communities where it's needed most.
Moving on to the congressional candidates, we'll start with Joe this time. How should Congress address the opioid epidemic and other substance abuse issues affecting our communities?
Well, I guess you know, Ohio is probably the leading state in opioids. We've obviously got to crack down on trafficking that's taking place. We've got to put tighter laws in, including with pharmacies. A lot of the opioids come from people get surgery, they get a limited amount of opioids, they start getting hooked on them. We've got to control that outflow. That's a congressional executive decision has to be formed. We have to worry about other things that would contribute to this. We've got a fentanyl problem nationwide. Different drugs tend to propagate to different drug uses. So basically, we got to clamp down on the laws and including prescription opioids. Thank you.
Just last week, I was on a plane from Denver back to Cincinnati. I went skiing from my ears. I sat next to a fellow who was in the military. He got back from Iraq, way back in after the Gulf War, and he got injured, and he became addicted to opioids and painkillers. Because we had nowhere for him to go to get assistance, the VA where he lived was a bad one. He turned to heroin, and then he turned to crime because heroin isn't cheap, and he spent some time in jail. I asked him how he got over it because he's clearly done well for himself. He's dressed nicely. He bragged about making $100,000 a year for the first time in his life. He was doing well. I asked him how he turned it around. He said, I went to prison. I was in jail for like 6 months waiting trial, and I decided to get over it. And there were resources in jail. People came, volunteers came, and they helped people get over this. And when it went to trial, the judge said, hey, we're going to just give you 2 years probation. What you did, it wasn't that bad. He says, no, judge, leave me in prison for another couple years. I'm not ready. There are no services to help me get over my addiction. They exist in prison. I get food, shelter, clothing, and addiction help in prison. If you let me out now, I'm going right back to crime. We need help for people who are addicted to opioids. We also need to crack down on pharmacies who put it out too easily. Thank you.
Okay, it's getting late, so I'm going to keep it short. I went ahead and just prepared. Let me check the question real quick. Oh, yeah. The drugs. Okay. First, it's always the drugs. First, we got to continue to hold the pharmaceutical companies liable for what they did. We know what they did. We saw what they did. You go in for a hurt hip, you know, or an elbow, or even something like that. You end up on these really nice pills that make everything go away, and you don't feel any pain anymore. They knew what they were doing when they gave them to them. So we continue to hold them liable, meaning take their money and invest it back into the communities they destroyed. Harm reduction is another option that we need to be pouring more resources into. Harm reduction, if you're not familiar with that, we do have needle exchange programs, safe places for people to use. I know children who found their parents dead of overdoses, and here I am, their teacher. That upsets me. So harm reduction in those cases could have been helpful. Sites where they could go and use safely instead of doing it in the presence of their children or in another room and then their children have to find them dead. I can't tell people to quit using drugs because I don't understand the science behind it fully, but what I do know is we can reduce the harm involved in that. Also, legalize recreational marijuana already. I don't know how long we've been talking about this, but so far it looks to me like the only reason we do not legalize it nationwide is because we still want that ability to throw people in prison, okay? And I'm over that. We can quit building so many prisons also, and let's put some rehab facilities up. Just because you happen to like the pills that the doctor gave you and you ended up in all kinds of troubles and you took a 10-year break, doesn't mean you need to be sitting in prison. So fund those rehab facilities. Thank you.
So I've said over and over healthcare. The reality is we have boundless money for the pharmaceutical companies, even when they're selling drugs that we finance the research on. We have endless money for prisons, many of which are privatized. And if you think they're getting real health care and drug addiction care in prison, you are sadly mistaken. A friend of mine just got out of prison. He said, you can get anything you want in prison. We are not doing ourselves any favors. We put more Americans in prison than any other country, and a majority of them are minorities. Look, Portugal hasn't had people dying for 20 years because they have safe spaces that are supervised for people to get and test their drugs and take their drugs. It's pretty simple to stop the dying. What the problem is our healthcare industry favors things like medication over actual treatment. Why? Because people can't afford anything else. Because our healthcare costs have gone up 250% in the last 10 years. Mike Turner is very good for the billionaires. He's good for healthcare. That's after you get past the defense industry. That's his next people backing him. We need to totally fix healthcare in this country. It has to happen. You deserve the same healthcare your congressman gets. And I am a veteran. I get my care at the VA, and you wish you had my health care for a majority of the time. Thank you very much.
Question for Senate District 6 candidates, starting with Jocelyn this time. The Ohio legislature is considering eliminating state income tax and replacing the $13 billion shortfall by increasing sales taxes. Would you support this change? Why or why not?
Thank you. Oh, this is a fun question. So let's be honest. This bill is backed by extremists in the State House, and it is purely a bill that they can use to win primaries and to beat each other and ultimately get who gets the speaker's seat in the State House of the next General Assembly. It doesn't have anything to do with the good of Ohio. It doesn't have anything to do with public education. It doesn't have anything to do with how they care about how money is allocated, how things are funded. And it is, as somebody who's a public servant who cares deeply about our community, it is a dereliction of duty that they are passing bills so that they can gain control in the speaker's position instead of actually asking, what is the legislation that can make our lives better? I deeply believe in the power of democratic legislation and policy to make our lives better. I'm so excited to be your next senator so I can go out there and work on legislation with the Republicans who are willing to do the good work across the aisle. There's some really great bills out there that are sponsored by Republicans. And I'm excited to work with all the other Democrats out there. We can make this state better. We can make sure that schools are funded. We can make sure that health care is funded. And I am so grateful for this opportunity and an opportunity to talk about funding, and I can't wait to hear what everybody else says. Thank you.
I definitely do not support the idea of eliminating the income tax and putting it into sales tax, which then just continues to pass the burden onto low-income and middle-income families. Everybody needs to pay their fair share of income taxes, and part of the job of being a state senator is to continually advocate that our money is spent in a way that reflects our priorities in the Dayton region and comes back to us in services and initiatives for our greatest needs. If we have the problem of being 44th in the nation in healthcare and 50th in the nation in children's services, the last thing we need to do is cut more funding to those things. We are lower than some of the reddest states in the South in a number of ways, and I think this is a terrible idea.
Well, this is a mistake, and as a current state representative, I will be voting against this. Like I said before, there are better things we need to be focusing on. You know, I'm getting sick and tired of the Republican supermajority introducing bills, trying to pass bills just to please the minority, making decisions for the majority, me and you. When I think about our economy and think about inflation, you know, there are people who are struggling right now to put food on the table. There are people who are struggling to go to the dentist. There are also folks who are struggling to just get those health checkups. You know, there's a great saying that goes, it is expensive to be poor. And by them eliminating this and putting the burden on everyday Ohioans, it's just not a good thing. We need to focus on bringing jobs here into the community that pay a living wage. We need to also make sure that we are providing our cities with the resources. Think about our infrastructure. We have bridges that need to be rebuilt. We have roads that have potholes, which goes back to inflation because folks cannot afford to go to the auto mechanic shop to get a wheel alignment or to get a flat tire fix. We need to listen to the people of Ohio, and this is not what the people of Ohio wants.
And from the candidates for state representatives, starting this time with Desiree. Ohio Democratic representatives have recently crafted a number of common sense gun safety bills. What is your position on gun control and measures to address gun violence in Ohio communities?
Thank you for the question. Many of us remember the night that the Oregon District shooting happened. I myself was out that night with my friends from high school, and I wanted to go to Peppers. And very last minute, they decided that we would go somewhere else. That's how close I was to being there. When I was at Dunbar, I lost a classmate because he was an innocent bystander. He was killed by a stray bullet. In high school, I remember running from bullets, hiding in a ditch at a teen party at Miracles where we were probably not supposed to be. Hiding from bullets. When we talk about gun violence, unfortunately, it has become as American as apple pie. However, you do not need an AK-47 or an AR-15 to go hunting, and that is the logic that we hear from people. I support banning assault weapons. I support overturning the open carry state that we have because it is creating more fear. When we see someone walk around with a gun on their hip in Walmart, we wonder what happens next. Those people are targeted by criminals. There's too much hate in this country, too much instability to have guns everywhere. We don't need them. I support the Second Amendment, but by all means, you do not need to walk around with an AK-47 and an AR-15 because you find it to be fun. That is my position.
Gun legislation. The gun laws that we have inside this country is totally, the gun laws that we have inside of this country is totally changed. When you think about our governor who signed a bill into law that says that anybody can carry a weapon with no background, without the proper training. I have a CCW inside of my pocket right now. And I can tell you that individuals that are walking around this streets of Dayton, I've had cousins, here's close to home for me. I've had cousins who have been murdered in these streets. Not just here, but abroad. And when we have a governor that did what he did 2 years ago, it was shameful, it was ridiculous for our community and for the state. We need to make certain that we can do everything in our power possible at the state legislature to force our Republican, the people on the side, to do and put in place sensible gun laws and legislation that will eradicate the kind of violence that we've seen. I'm going to tell you, all you got to do is look at my record. I've been talking to so many people. Which is why my voice is messed up. Now, because I've been talking to people about gun violence, talking to people about health care, been talking about people about women's rights, union rights, labor rights. Sorry about that, yes. But the bottom line, we need to do something with these gun laws.
There you go.
That's all right. So I grew up in a very rural community where gun ownership was part of the culture. My husband is an avid hunter. My sons are both hunters, and I can tell you for sure that you can respect the Second Amendment and keep people safe. A lot of people talk about assault weapons, but what we often don't realize is that the #1 type of gun that kills people are handguns. So I support a state handgun registry that would allow us to keep track of the number of handguns in our state. I also support a ban on high-capacity magazines. Just banning high-capacity magazines would eliminate the ability for people to turn a gun into an assault rifle. I also would support a ban on permitless concealed carry. We require that people get training and have a license to drive a car. We should require people to have training and a license if they're going to conceal carry a weapon. These are just some of the things that I think are very common sense gun safety measures. We can respect the rights of responsible gun owners, and we can keep everybody else safe. It is not that difficult. So those are things that I would support.
I think the Heller decision by Scalia was bullshit. I think the way they interpret the Second Amendment is bullshit. You know, they're taking the way that things happened during the Revolutionary War and trying to apply that to now. It's crazy. Some other things I might add to what the other people said is, I think there's a lot of racism in the gun laws that we have. If you look at the stand your ground laws, basically it's a license to hunt people. I'm sick of it. Some other ideas. How about some safe storage laws? How about enforcing that? How about holding these parents responsible for their kids going out and shooting up schools? You know, it was the Oregon district thing. I sat on the sidelines my whole life. I never thought I was going to do anything like this. It was the Oregon shooting that got me off my ass, and that's why I'm doing it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucienne. Gosh, I do not want to keep you folks any longer. This has been a great forum. I hope you have learned a lot from our candidates. I can't thank them enough. And Derrick, go home and have a whiskey or something. I hope this informs you at the ballot box. And I can't thank these folks enough for giving up their evening to educate all of us. So thank you very, very much for coming. And if you want to come to the South Dayton Democratic Club, everybody is always welcome. Thank you.
We didn't get a chance last night to do closing comments. And while I think candidates forums like this are awesome, changing the rules in the middle isn't the right thing to do. Since I was tasked with filming the event, and thanks to my hockey defensive partner Walt Merrick for coming out and helping, I get to add my own close at the end. So here it goes. I'd like everyone to look around and congratulate each other. This is the biggest attendance at a Democratic Party information event ever. It's a testament to the great work of Tim and Allison Benford, who modeled the ideals of a true Democratic Party. Look at these primary choices. This is democracy in action. However, your work has just begun. Do not judge candidates by 90-second sound bites or who endorsed them or how much money they've been given. Go do your homework. Go to their websites. Reach out to them. Think before you vote. I have lived in this district and battled with Mike Turner and corruption in our political ecosystem for the last 30 years plus. I actually live in this district and wasn't asked to run by someone else. I have exposed corruption, gone to court, been arrested for exercising my rights to challenge the practice of backroom corrupt politics, and I keep battling. I will be releasing a video like no other next week. When you spend 8 minutes to watch it, as Allison has, you'll realize that I am uniquely qualified to take Mike Turner to the mat, unlike any other. And I want to say to those of you who shook your heads when I said we have continued to support Israel and no ceasefire until the hostages are released, let's be clear. More than 30,000 Americans die every year from gun violence and addiction, and it's my job to save American lives first. And that has to come first. Let's also be clear. To believe that death tolls being touted by Hamas, ignoring how many of their terrorists have been killed in that number, is the same thing as believing that Donald Trump is a billionaire and the Messiah. While all loss of innocent lives is wrong, I'm more concerned with the civilian death toll in Ukraine and the fact that this war is entering its third year, and we are still rationing arms and ammunition to the underdogs in the fight. It is up to you, the dedicated Democrats, to help get out the vote, to encourage your friends and neighbors to do their homework, to pick the candidates who will best represent them. Look at the resumes, the accomplishments, the commitment to the community. Running for office is not easy, nor is it about some kind of glory. It's about a commitment to serve the public. If you look online and search my name, you'll find someone who's done the work, invests his time, be it hanging over 600 free basketball nets and guilting the city into fixing the courts, or going to court to question the action of the feds and only charging and convicting black people in the culture of corruption. I've exposed war crimes right here on our own jail, where inmates were restrained and pepper sprayed, to corrupt school board members committing voter fraud and living outside their district. Look me up. Actions speak louder than words. Go to either electesrati.com for the campaign or esrati.com for the citizen journalism. And note, you're on my YouTube channel. There's over 400 videos of community meetings and other things that you will find important. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and stay informed. Thank you.